Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's reading of The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. This is chapter 4, where Pellegrina is just beginning to read, or not read, but to tell a story, a bedtime story to Abilene and Edward. And she left off at the end of chapter 3 saying, "You must listen," said Pellegrina. "It's all in the story." Chapter 4. Once there was a princess who was very beautiful. She shone as bright as the stars on a moonless night. But what difference did it make that she was beautiful? None. No difference. "Why did it make no difference?" asked Abilene. "Because," said Pellegrina, "she was a princess who loved no one and cared nothing for love, even though there were many who loved her." And at this point in her story, Pellegrina stopped and looked right at Edward. She stared deep into his painted-on eyes, and again, Edward felt a shiver go through him. "And so," said Pellegrina, still staring at Edward. "What happened to the princess?" said Abilene. "And so," said Pellegrina, turning back to Abilene, "the king, her father, said that the princess must marry, and soon after this a prince came from a neighboring kingdom, and he saw the princess, and immediately he loved her. He gave her a ring of pure gold. He placed it on her finger, and he said these words to her, 'I love you.' But do you know what the princess did?" Abilene shook her head. "She swallowed the ring. She took it from her finger and swallowed it. She said, 'That is what I think of love.' And she ran from the prince. She left the castle and went deep into the woods. And so..." "And so what?" said Abilene. "What happened then?" "And so the princess became lost in the woods. She wandered for many days, and finally she came to a little hut, and she knocked on the door. And she said, 'Let me in, I am cold.' But there was no answer. She knocked again, and she said, 'Let me in, I am hungry.' A terrible voice answered her, and the voice said, 'Enter if you must.' The beautiful princess entered, and she saw a witch sitting at a table counting pieces of gold. 3,622, said the witch. 'I'm lost,' said the beautiful princess. 'What of it?' said the witch. 3,623. 'I'm hungry,' said the princess. 'Not my concern,' said the witch. 3,624. 'But I am a beautiful princess,' said the princess. 3,625, replied the witch. 'My father,' said the princess, 'is a powerful king. You must help me, or there will be consequences.' 'Consequences?' said the witch. She looked up from her gold. She stared at the princess. 'You dare to talk to me of consequences? Very well, then. We will speak of consequences. Tell me the name of the one you love.' 'Love?' said the princess. She stamped her foot. Why must everyone always speak of love? Whom do you love? Said the witch. You must tell me the name. I love no one, said the princess proudly. You disappoint me, said the witch. She raised her hand and said one word. Farthiggery! And the beautiful princess was changed into a warthog. What have you done to me? Squealed the princess. Talk to me of consequences now, will you? Said the witch, and she went back to counting her pieces of gold. 3,626, said the witch, as the warthog princess ran from the hut and out again into the forest. The king's men were in the forest too, and what were they looking for? A beautiful princess. And so when they came upon an ugly warthog, they shot it immediately. Pow! No, said Abilene. Yes, said Pellegrina. The men took the warthog back to the castle, and the cook slit open its belly, and inside she found a ring of pure gold. There were many hungry people in the castle that night, and all of them were waiting to be fed. So the cook put the ring on her finger and finished butchering the warthog. And the ring that the beautiful princess had swallowed shone on the cook's hand as she did her work. The end. The end? Said Abilene indignantly. Yes, said Pellegrina. The end. But it can't be. Why can't it be? Because it came too quickly. Because no one is living happily ever after. That's why. Ah, and so. Pellegrina nodded. She was quiet for a moment. But answer me this. How can a story end happily if there is no love? But, well, it is late, and you must go to sleep. Pellegrina took Edward from Abilene, and she put him in his bed and pulled the sheet up to his whiskers. She leaned close to him, and she whispered, You disappoint me. After the old lady left, Edward lay in his small bed and stared up at the ceiling. The story, he thought, had been pointless. But then most stories were. He thought of the princess and how she had become a warthog. How gruesome! How grotesque! What a terrible fate! Edward, said Abilene, I love you. I don't care how old I get. I will always love you. Yes, yes, thought Edward. And he continued to stare up at the ceiling. He was agitated for some reason that he could not name, and he wished that Pellegrina had put him on his side so that he might look at the stars. And then he remembered Pellegrina's description of the beautiful princess. She shone as bright as the stars on a moonless night. And for some reason, Edward found comfort in these words, and he repeated them to himself. As bright as the stars on a moonless night. As bright as the stars on a moonless night. Over and over until at last, the first light of dawn appeared. Chapter 4. What do you make of that story that Pellegrina told? It doesn't make sense to me that a princess could be turned into a warthog. Okay, I guess it was by a witch. But that the cook just cut her up and fed her to the starving people and wore the ring on her finger? How does that relate to Edward? And how does Edward disappoint her? I'm confused. Maybe you have some ideas. Well, if you do, maybe you can get on Flipgrid and send me a little message. What do you think's going to happen? Like, how's all this relate? The story and Edward and Abilene and the Queen Mary, this ship that's the family's supposed to be going on? I don't know. Help me. Anyhow, that was chapter 4 of The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Now you go ahead and get those teeth brushed. You should be brushing them for at least a couple minutes. Don't do the old quick into the sink, rinse. That's too fast. Get in there and really brush, not too hard, just, circular motions. Start in the back, on the side, go all the way to the front, all the way to the back. Then on the top, all the way to the back. Then on the inside, circular motion, all the way to the back. Then same thing on the bottom. Start on the side, circular motion, all the way to the back. Then the tops. You get the picture. Circular motions. When you get to the front, again, redo the front. I always do the back side of my teeth twice, and the front twice, because I don't like it when there's weird. I like them nice and smooth. And if you're into flossing, you should be. You should floss your teeth before you brush. Yeah. But some people floss after they brush them and they gargle with like some kind of mouthwash. Make sure you do it for at least a minute. You know how to do it. All right. Get those teeth brushed, wash your hands, wash your face, get your pajamas on, and get into bed. Make sure you tell everybody you love them before you go to bed, right? It's the best thing to do. Okay. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Take care. See you tomorrow.